Hello there, and welcome to another SimCron. We've managed to get to quarter one of 2026, and all sorts of things have been going on. But in large part, we've been working very heavily on AI. And I'm going to hand over to Simon to get us going. And I think Charles has got loads of goodies to share in this particular one, hasn't he?
Yeah, I hope so. Quarter four was dominated by reworking AI Agent, which, although still in beta, is now out in version 2. And it's amazing, frankly. Some of the architectural changes underneath are, I think, game changing. But it's probably easiest to hand over to Mr. Chance to show us what he's done.
Yeah, hi. We have actually completely re-engineered the stack. Version one, while it was beta, so clearly very early stage, and we're now version two already, but still beta. Version one was very much proof of concept. We knew where we wanted to get to. We didn't know how we would get there, and to what extent we would have things on net. Obviously it's our preference to have the full stack under our control, but there's a huge amount of work there, and we wanted to gauge interest, I guess, first, and see what our customers wanted to do with the functionality. So then we could base our sort of path and development roadmap on that. So back in April last year, we released version one, and it gained a huge amount of interest and feedback and praise and everything else. But one of the things that one of the things that was a common piece of feedback was, this is great. It's really useful as a message taking tool, as an information sharing tool. But then it kind of stops there, because it's really difficult to progress the caller's inquiry beyond just taking a message and having someone call them back. So tooling and the ability for the agent to do more, and further to be able to signpost and to transfer that caller to somewhere else, whether it was another agent or a human in the mix, was a clear stepping stone and next milestone for us, really. That required us to re-engineer it, which we did. It's bigger, it's better, but actually it feels like we're now actually back at the starting line, from the surface, looking in, but underneath it's changed hugely. I mean, let me share my screen, because what I'll do is I'll just point out a couple of the obviously changed or improved parts, but then we'll take a bit of a deep dive into under the hood and just understand what's really going on, and why we're in a better position now to move forward at an accelerated pace.
So you're getting that screen share up, Charles. I think one of the things that's worth pointing out, especially for people that were early adopters back in April, is how amazingly similar or exactly the same you managed to keep the user interface. So there's all of that extra goodness, and yet actually setting it up is still, the delightful user experience that it's always been.
It's probably helpful. Sorry, Charles, go on.
Okay. Sorry, Sam, you carry on.
I was going to say, it's probably helpful to reiterate that one thing we stressed with version one is that we haven't invented all of this stuff. We were very, very clear with version one that we were using third-party APIs, third-party services, and we were layering on the bit that we could add value, which was the telephony that they hadn't done. But having done that, at least in part, because we hadn't done call transfer at that stage, we've come to realize just how much more there is that we can add value and we can do so much better. And a lot of that has gone into this, but there's also a lot more on the roadmap now, where we end up actually with everything on net. ultimately down the line, and we've got a very clear path to that, and can see some real big wins where we haven't already taken them.
Yeah,
And
no,
ease
really
of
good
use
point.
was one of those things, wasn't it? Because other people want you to write Python scripts and do this and go to these disparate APIs, and yet Charles has engineered this in a way that makes it very straightforward to use.
Yeah, some really good points there, and yes, the SIP integration, the telephony piece over the top was where we could immediately add value, and where others hadn't, and draw an experience there, particularly around latency and making sure that the call quality was the best it could be, etc. But then what became very apparent is there's loads more that the others just weren't doing. That we could, as we learned and as we went on that process, that journey, we discovered that we can actually do so much better, and so much more if we controlled more of the stack, and were able to start building some of the components, the elements of it from the ground up. And that's exactly what we've done. One of which is RAG, which is the sort of advanced knowledge base retrieval, augmented generation part of the stack, which we'll move on to in a minute. Let me just show you very quickly. You'll see that the legacy agents are now labeled as such. So any agents that you may have created on version 1 will remain there, and the voices that you have, because we've also released a new set of voices now as well, which actually are more performant, better quality, and puts us in a better place in terms of cost as well, because the next stage is obviously modeling or releasing the pricing model, and we want for that to be as consistent and as controllable as possible. So it all sort of factors in, but voices are there's a new set of voices, but the old voices are still there to use with the legacy agents. We will at some point withdraw the sort of functionality of version 1, but we'll leave them there just for now, so that actually you can compare like for like. You can give the new agents the same prompt, the same documents upload into the knowledge base, which is now obviously on net and controlled by us, with the addition of the RAG by default. Again, we'll go into that shortly, and just see how much far along how far along we've come since version 1.
To be clear, Charles, just very quickly, anybody that's coming in and creating brand new agents is going to be doing it on version 2,
It's
aren't
going
they?
to be on version 2 by default. Yeah. So any new agent created from here on in is on the completely re-engineered stack, and gets the benefit of all of that goodness. So let's just go into here, because one of the other new things which don't appear with version 1 agents, everything else is the same, as you said, as you rightly pointed out. There is the same. We've added this tools section, because this is kind of the major new functionality, if you like, from day one, which gives the agent more capability. It's not just relying on its existing training or knowledge, and a very limited access to the documents that you upload to the knowledge base. It now has far greater capability around those things, including web search, because obviously an LLM's training goes up to a certain point. Any documents that you give it or feed to it are usually up to a certain point in time, but there are certain queries and certain things which lend themselves to a sort of more real-time lookup, a real-time search. Things like questions about your latest blog post is the example we always I always use, because Pete internally, he loves to challenge our agents, or did with version 1, and catch them out when he was asking about usually his latest blog post.
Yeah, he wasn't bothered about anybody else's.
Always his latest blog post, and it didn't know about them. It couldn't answer the question. Version 2, can, because it can perform a live web search. There are guardrails. It's limited to the domains that you specify or restrict its access to. So it won't just go and search anything across the web. So it can be your website. It could just be your blog. It could be your public-facing knowledge base. But that gives you the capability, or the agent the capability, to fetch bang up to date information if it feels like the query is relating to new stuff, real time information, or if it doesn't find the answer in its own knowledge base from the documents that you've uploaded. The other major one, of course, is transfer to number. Now, this is
sorry, Charles, didn't mean to interrupt. I think that's the first to Simwood thing. I'm not aware of anybody else doing real time search at all.
Yeah, I certainly don't think not so readily available and easy to toggle and enable as this is. This just leads back again to interface, user experience. There's so much of this stuff out there, but it involves so much in terms of setup, integration work, development to build something that's useful, and it really doesn't. It doesn't create a platform and something that can be used really quickly to add value to your own telephony platform or stack.
Let's face it, if you want an 11 billion valuation, you've got to build overcomplicated crap. You can't make it look too easy.
Yeah, no.
Not that I'm bitter or anything.
I think another thing just to mention, as you've pointed out, that web search, Charles, is that it's a very directed web search.
Yeah.
And it just reminded me of the whole thing about guardrails on these AI agents, because let's say you've got a digital receptionist. You can't have a situation where somebody phones up and says, I'd like to speak to Pete about one of his blog posts, but actually I've got a broken arm, can you help me with it?
Yeah.
And the agent goes off and does that. And so I just wanted to mention that, because I know you've done a lot of work in keeping things focused.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course you have the system prompt here, which is how you kind of tailor or craft the agent's scope and role and everything else, and you can add guardrails there. But we've got a lot of experience now from our work since before April, when version 1 was released, around prompting. It's an art in itself, and we also, when the agent is deployed to a room or a conversation with a caller, there's an awful lot of the stuff that we add to the prompt, which is just sort of more generic guardrails and things which allow it to be flexible, allow the agent to be prompted by the customer or the creator of it. But some of the sort of more generic stuff is just there, so it makes it far easier to deploy an agent in just a few clicks without fear of it going off track or just sort of being completely useless. All of it's overridable, all of it's enhanceable with your own prompts, and there's various sections where you can actually add additional prompts, particularly in the tools. But this transfer to number is kind of the second piece that I just wanted to quickly touch on, or the second tool. Again, guardrails exist. It can only transfer to the destinations that you specify, that you allow it to transfer to. You'll notice that these destinations in this example here are local PBX extension numbers. We'll come on to that in a minute. But the sort of description that you give it is kind of just a natural language. Here's why you would want to transfer somebody to this destination. It allows the agent to make decisions based on context, the semantic understanding of the caller's query or question, and propose the best destination for that call, for that situation. Unless, of course, the caller asks specifically to be transferred to accounts, in which case it can see that there is an accounts team there and they can offer to transfer them. If the caller asks to transfer to somewhere not on that list, it will say, I'm sorry, I'm unable to do that, but I can take a message and call you back, that sort of thing. It's there. The guardrails just exist naturally.
So right there, you've reinvented the IVR.
Exactly right, and that was sort of the point. It immediately these agents could be a full IVR replacement, but without the annoying experience of trying to speak in keyword terms, because that it's the only way that it can understand what you want to, what your problem is, and where you want to be transferred to. This is natural language, natural conversation, and it can, from the rest of the conversation and context it's already has determine the best target without multiple levels of menus and annoying speech to text type or voice recognition systems of old. This is new tech. This is definitely the way forward.
And can I just add one other thing in, based on a demo that I did recently, and that's our WhatsApp integration. Because of course we're talking about talking to a conversational AI, but you can message with it as well. And because of the power of the WhatsApp integration as well, you can have a system where in conversation on chat, you can say, I want to talk to, accounts or whatever. And if it's appropriate, then the conversational AI can come back if it knows it's on WhatsApp and say, okay, just hit the voice call in this chat. And it can direct through to that destination, which I thought was very powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Now, one of the things you'll notice is these tools are sort of built-in tools, things that we call system tools. There is another type of tool on the way, or in development at the moment, which is a sort of third-party tool or third-party integration tool, which allows you to connect the agent to external interfaces, APIs, whether that's your own or your customers, your end users' internal system, or whether it's a public or cloud type API service, CRM, or something like Zapier, which allows you to connect many to many things. This is this really then just opens up its ability to get context mid call or throughout the call, authenticate a caller, book meetings, appointments, you name it. If you can integrate with it programmatically, we'll obviously make it as easy as possible to do so. It allows the agent to do anything that a human could do with the web interface open for HubSpot or some other kind of CRM that you may use, or book a calendar appointment, or anything in between.
Charles, could this ultimately lead to people creating applications in Simwood land via the Simwood API by doing it in speech and talking it?
It could. I'm not sure, 100% sure I understand the
well, in other words, if it connected to our API, could people in the middle of a phone call say, "Oh, I phoned up because I want to create this app.
Yes,
do this, do that."
Yes. So we could use this as a support tool for people calling us asking for help to add numbers to their accounts and things. Yeah, of course. Yeah, we could do that.
Amazing.
And that's that's quite a good use case actually. Obviously, you would need to authenticate the caller, make sure they are who they say they are, not just somebody calling up to get a number. Somebody else. Yeah,
I'm just seeing them saying the prompt saying, "Now speak your API key, one character at a time."
yeah, definitely. But with these tools, it can go away. It can authenticate the caller. It can make a call to our internal API endpoint, which says, right, it recognizes the caller's number, it matches it to a customer. It then asks the agent to request digits 2 and 5 of their their telephone PIN. Obviously, the caller then reads those back, and the agent submits them back to the API. And if they match, and it could be 2 or 3 stages. Also, we're going to send a text with a one-time code. You can see there's a send SMS tool already there. We're very soon shortly be adding WhatsApp as well, because we have that capability. You can see really how this can quickly build into a fully featured support tool that's very autonomous and very, very light touch in terms of resource and expense. Once it's built, it can be there. And then if it can't resolve the query or it can't identify the caller, it can transfer it to somebody who can.
I think that's the key thing, because when we first started, certainly personally, I was building monolithic prompts. This is an agent for the business. It needs to answer account queries, porting queries, Whereas now an agent can be confined to a single role and can transfer to another agent for another role, or another human, or both. So you can make them very, very, very focused and very lightweight.
Yeah, very specialized, and that's we've found is to be the best way to deploy these agents, because you start to head towards a monolithic agent, as you quite rightly call it there. The prompt gets pretty huge, very cumbersome, and from an LLM's point of view, where it's it's given this system prompt. You add to that the context of the conversation as it progresses, and it very quickly starts to all get diluted and lost. So where you can specialize, you really should try to do so as much as possible. Focus the agents, and now with the capability of transferring to another agent, which is also specialized in a different area. Let's say account, somebody who has access to account queries and the billing system to fetch invoices and answer questions about them. It makes it easy to do that with very little effort. Anyway, let's when we talk about transferring, actually, I mentioned that those were 3 digits on our example, and that brings me to the third point, which actually does reiterate what we said before, which is all of this is aimed at making it as easy as possible to integrate and to deploy these things, both for our customers, but more importantly for their customers too. And the way we've done that, or dramatically reduced the integration effort here to be able to integrate these agents with your own platforms, is with remote PBX registration or remote SIP registration. Now, you don't need to have the call sent to your PBX and then send the call back to the usual .simwood.com with a special header to say it needs to go to this agent on the agent platform, and then realize that with that setup, we can't handle call transfers or SIP refers, because at carrier services level, the carrier services platform doesn't support SIP refers because it doesn't need to. It's not, that's an end user PBX or end user facing platform responsibility. We don't have the context of how it should be billed, where it should be transferred, the local numbering schemes and all that sort of thing. So we can't do that with this. And if I just go back to the list of agents, you'll see on the version 2 agent here, this middle button is enabled. It is where you enter just a set of SIP credentials to connect to your PBX or your SIP platform, just as any other handset or user agent would do. You'll see the registration. In fact, this one is connecting to our hosted platform, and I can just show you here. It's connected to extension 1001J. There we go. It is there. Okay, you'll see it registered. It can then receive calls just as any other handset connected to that PBX account can receive calls, and it can initiate calls, and it can transfer calls, and it can call local 3 or 4 digit numbers and everything else that a regular user agent can do, just by having it registered to your PBX. Removes that hairpinning scenario. You just have the call sent to you as you would any number, and if that number or if that call needs to be sent to the agent, you send it to the extension and the agent answers.
Just to
incredibly powerful. Sorry, go ahead, Simon.
Just to reiterate, that enables any of our platform customers with their own PBX platform of any flavour to have agent capability built on carrier services.
Exactly right.
Yeah, and the point I was going to make here is that it's actually got all of that intelligence, but until recently, you had to direct an inbound call to it. Now what you've done is equip that intelligence with more of the human connectivity that it had, both in terms of its SIP registration, but also in terms of the API that you said is coming soon, where it'll be able to integrate with other third-party apps. So it's looking even more like an agent that's on the end of a phone and can make and receive calls and, look up HubSpot or go onto a calendar or whatever it might be. Amazing.
That's right. Now, of course, this the agents can be configured or created, configured. The SIP credentials can be given, can be added, all through our existing API. So, sure, there is some potential integration work there if you want to make it all sort of nicely built into your customer's experience there. Just as you would integrate for numbering, adding numbering and updating EHA data and all of those sorts of things that you would orchestrate through the Simwood carrier services API. You can do so also with agents. So you can deploy an agent just as you would deploy a trunk or a number or anything else. But at that point, once you've created it, it connects to or registers to your PBX as a SIP user agent, and all of the call flow and everything, and all the billing, the transfer, the dial plan, everything else just exists and happens naturally as it would do with any other endpoint. Which is the major part of any of the integration. If you're already integrating with our API for numbering and things, then it's just another endpoint to create an agent. It's a RESTful API, so it's a natural post to create, and you get the configuration, update it with a put, just like anything else. Once it's connected, you can route calls and things. Your end users can change rules based on time of day, etc. And it just happens, and it's built and adheres to your own rules around this call flow and where things can be transferred to, without any kind of integration or special tooling to be added there.
Great.
So, those are the sort of the major things from the new things that you'll see in the portal for these version 2 agents. The final thing which I'd like to touch on, which looks the same actually here, and this is one of the examples of where the functionality on the surface looks the same, but actually under the hood is massively improved and adds so much value, is the knowledge base. Now, you could already upload documents to the version 1 platform, and that would populate a knowledge base where the document is just turned into text and stored. That's kind of the basic functionality of the knowledge base. But on top of that, in the conversational AI world, particularly around with real-time agents, phone agents, where latency is huge, an extra 500 milliseconds on each turn is noticeable. It just makes the conversation feel quite unnatural. So latency is everything, and tuning there is everything. On the previous platform, the knowledge base capability stopped with that text, plain text search, for various reasons. One of which was just unpredictable cost and capacity to be able to share a very limited resource across all of the agents, across all customers and things. And the second, because it was it wasn't ours, and we didn't have the ability to customize or optimize the queries and the latency that resulted from them. It meant that agents had visibility over just the first 100 bytes, I think, of each knowledge base document, and they would go into the system prompt. So during the conversation, the agents wouldn't be able to query the knowledge base in real time, because it would just be too slow and it would just be too unwieldy without this additional layer, which is the RAG that I'm talking about. We decided that actually this RAG was really important, but there is no turnkey solution for RAG, and there's no third-party solution which gives us the control and the unlimited capability to or resource, if you like, or enough resource, sufficient resource to make this viable. So we built it. We built it from the ground up, our own RAG system. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. That just means that the prompt or the response that's generated by the LLM is augmented by a set of information that's retrieved at the point of prompting it. So on each turn, the caller has asked a query. There's a question there. We fetch by default always related information or information that might be relevant to that question or that query. I'll try to avoid the sort of deep technical explanation of how, but it does it in a way which is optimal for speed and returns chunks of data which is optimal for an LLM to be able to create a response on the back of it. So it retrieves, it augments the prompt going into the agent, into the LLM, so that the LLM can then return a very accurate and grounded, more importantly, grounded response. It reduces, almost eliminates hallucination, which is a common pitfall with LLMs, where they're not really armed with enough information to provide grounded responses. So they start to make things up and make assumptions that really shouldn't be made. And because of the way we've built the RAG system, it means that the latency added to the turn is so minimal that it's just not noticeable. So we can afford to do it for every query, or every query that is a genuinely a question. We quickly scan the intent, and if it's just general chit chat, then we don't do a search. But if it looks like a question or a query that needs some additional domain knowledge, if there are knowledge base documents available, because obviously we don't query the knowledge base if you haven't uploaded any, but if there are, we query it, and it adds very little and certainly no noticeable overhead or latency to the experience.
And the impact of that is incredible, really. We put the before and after WhatsApp chat on the blog. I don't know if you've got a demo you're intending doing here, but the accuracy of the response was absolutely night and day. I view RAG as a bit of a search engine in simple terms. I can understand. In the past we've had some idiot upload his book as a resource for the knowledge base, and you can't fit the whole book in the prompt. So being able to distill from the book which particular section is relevant knowledge at the time that knowledge is needed just makes the response so much more accurate.
Yeah, and it is exactly it's a search engine, but it's a very, very efficient search engine. Involves converting or running quick text through a language model, a model that we run ourselves locally, which is one of the contributing factors to being able to do this, in a cost-effective way, cost-efficient way, and also one of the contributing factors into reducing the latency to next to nothing. We're not. It doesn't involve a network round trip to somewhere else, some third party API. It's running entirely on net on our own team.
Charles, I wanted to ask, if I may, you've explained how the Simwood RAG makes a real difference to real-time communications. And while you've got that GUI up there, I wanted to ask about something that's not overtly in the portal, and that is interruptibility.
Yeah.
So, there might not be a definite setting for it, but I know that this is another refinement that you've made behind the scenes. And I had a particular interest in this because when I was first testing back in April last year, and I know that perhaps all of us kind of treated the system in a certain kind of way because we knew the way it worked and we interacted with it. But when you give it to a normal person and they try to talk to it normally, the ability to interrupt was not as good as it should be in terms of real life conversation. So tell us more about what you've done there, please.
Exactly right. Well, we've improved it to the point where it feels natural. I think it was very difficult to interrupt before, to the extent that most times it wouldn't acknowledge that you were trying to speak until the end of the turn. It was quite frustrating, particularly when the agent was repeating quite a long response or monologue based on a question that you've asked it. You had to wait for it to finish. That issue doesn't exist anymore on our stack. We've spent some time looking at the mechanism around detecting interruptions. Not only does it involve voice activity detection, or sort of just detecting that there is sound or a voice there, it actually involves a turn taking detection model as well to see that voice or that noise is actually somebody speaking or trying to interrupt. So there's kind of a semantic detection there, as well as a turn detection there, as well as just an audio detection, and it works really well. We've tuned it. We can still tune it further with what's called endpointing parameters or thresholds. And we can tune it further. We may expose some of those levers through to the configuration in the portal and the API as and when. Of course, we want to make this as we want to keep it as easy to create an agent as possible.
I think that's a key strength.
It is a key strength, and to make it as simple as possible to end up with a turnkey solution, which is almost off the shelf, ready to run just with minimal input. But of course, there are scenarios and use cases where some of those additional levers might be useful.
Charles, you prompted one other question in my mind as well, and that is, you just talked about voice activity detection. In traditional telephony, when we're making outbound calls, we can employ a technology called answer machine detect, when we're looking at the delay between the call being picked up and some energy coming on the line, or the duration of the utterance or whatever. Will, in this new sort of AI phase, when we're making outbound calls, will we still rely on technology like that, or will the LLM itself be able to determine whether it's been answered by a machine?
Yeah. Good point. Good question. That is exactly another use case for the voice activity detection and the turn taking model that we've already employed for just sort of turn detection, because it sits there as a layer in front of the LLM. It runs locally. It's far more lightweight in terms of network round trip and response time or processing time than the large language model in the middle, the brain. So it makes complete sense to use that as the voicemail detection, IVR detection, that sort of thing in front of it for outbound calls. And yes, it will absolutely be an option when the call initiation or outbound calling tool is available. There will be an option to toggle on voicemail detection slash
and actually,
IVR detection.
I guess beyond that, the LLM itself, when it hears the message from the answer phone, again, it could understand what's going on and respond accordingly.
It could too, and it's all about right place for the right thing and the right decisions. And the LLM is the main model that's used, to construct the answers, or to have the conversation. But there's a lot of specialized models around the sort of the outside of it, in front of it, and after it, to optimize some of the stuff out of it. Because if we relied on that for everything, then we end up with it quite diluted. Turns would take longer, and we lose that experience. So yeah, it's the right place for the right job.
Great. Okay, well, I think we're coming towards the end of our time. You've hinted at some of the things that are coming next. Is there anything else you'd like to say about what people might be able to look forward to by the time we come to the next SimCron in quarter 2?
Well, we'll continue, obviously, to develop the tooling. One of the reasons that we haven't mentioned yet for re-engineering this is to accelerate the pace of deploying tools, because tools, as we've established, is are really important to the value that these agents can add to a business. So we've kind of redesigned the and ended up with a framework that enables us to accelerate the pace of doing so, of adding those tools. So we'll continue with that. Other areas of work, we've got the WhatsApp integration that we're pulling through to the hosted platform, as well as, of course, version 2 of the agents pulling through to the hosted platform, as we do with most things that we start with on carrier services. They obviously make their way down the stack and end up in the hosted platform as almost a reference implementation, that others can lean on or take inspiration from.
Great.
And various other things, but the focus is on those. And then further, some of the multi-quarter objectives that we've perhaps hinted at in previous installments of SimCron, have all been things which are dependent upon that underlying AI stack, conversational AI stack, things like tag analysis and sentiment, real good sentiment and outcome analysis of calls, not just post call, but during call, which is significant, really, the difference there, because it enables things like, alerting or events, posted webhooks and things, so supervisors can see when a call is perhaps going awry, or so has gone off track. And helps with training and a host of other things alongside.
Most exciting one of those for me, I mean, tag analysis itself is huge, but the most exciting one is multi-party media. So we can do it not only attended transfer, but also the ability to listen into a call, to inject audio onto one side. And as you start exploring some of the possibilities and the use cases of this, it gets really, really exciting. So, for example, having an agent in a call center performing a discrete role, but having a supervisor agent that can listen to what it's doing and can prompt it through a back channel if it is going off script or isn't sticking to standard operating procedure, as well as a whole load of consumer facing stuff that we've talked about, such as nuisance call filtering and things like that. So I'm really, really excited about that one. But Charles has got some pretty tasty other ones on his quarter one list as well.
Yeah, it makes it very understand. Well, I suppose AI is such an important thing that it needs to be a focus. But when you explain how foundational it is to all the other things, it makes it even more understandable why there's been such a direct focus on it. Well, gents, thank you very, very much for joining another SimCron, and it's been great to dive deep into the conversational AI, and to see how many refinements and how many improvements have been made while still retaining that ease of use and putting those facilities at people's disposal so well. So thank you very much, Charles and Simon. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks both.
Yeah, thank you.